you. All right. Welcome everyone that we have who's joined us. Thank you so much for making the time to be here. We just wanted to help prepare you for year end. We try to do a webinar like this every year end. I think it's more important this year just because it's been kind of a wacky year. So we're just going to cover some of the main topics, things that you need to be paying attention to and looking out for so that we make sure that you don't forget anything and we haven't missed anything. So come January 1st, your payroll for 2020 will be perfect and ready for everyone to move forward. So we have Marika here with us today, and she is our fabulous client trainer. She will be giving our presentation, and I'm sure you've all heard from her, heard her give you some trainings in the past. She's fabulous. She was actually a client where, sat in your shoes a couple of years before she joined Auto Paycheck. So she is really able to see things from your perspective, and we're really glad that she has the time to go over these important year-end topics with us today. So at this point, I'm just going to step out of the way and hand it over to Marika. If you have questions throughout the presentation, I will be monitoring the chat function, and we will try to address any questions that come in. If you are joining us and you have the ability to mute your phone, please do so, just so that we don't have any background noises that get in the way of Marika's presentation.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Manon. So here we go. We're just going to get right into it. So year-end 2020, can anyone believe that we're actually here? I know this has been a year that has tested all of us. So we're actually excited to be coming into year-end. We have quite a few resources for you. Lots of things are coming down the pipe. Year-end is busy for everybody. And this is part of our busiest time. We're going to be doing a lot for you. And we start this off with our printable newsletter. So on the slides right now, you're going to see some links here. When you will actually get these, we'll send out the slides to you. So just know that we're going to give a lot of information over the next, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. We're going to give a lot of information. Don't worry about absorbing it all right this minute, because we're going to make sure that you have these slides. So if I reference a link or anything, you will be able to connect to that once we get this information over to you. So we have a printable newsletter. Our newsletter has gone out every year around this time. It's no different this year. We have created that pop-up that gets you when you first log into iSolved. You may have seen that already, maybe you didn't. We also have a link here right on this slide. It's also on our website. So if you aren't sure if you got your newsletter, you can either log into iSolved and find that, or give us a call. We've got that main number of 970-245-4244, or you can email us at info@autopaychecks.com, and we'll make sure you get a copy of that newsletter.
And again, it's also available up on the blog. So if you want to go and find it, you can look for it there.
Absolutely, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with our blog this year because we've had so much going on. So as well, within that printable newsletter, you have a printable year-end checklist. So this checklist, some of you have sent these in every year, some of you haven't, that's totally fine. But our purpose of this newsletter, or excuse me, the year-end checklist, is to help you make sure you're ready for your year-end as it relates to payroll. We'll go over a lot of special dates in there and different things that you may need to record in your payroll. Love that year-end checklist. Again, it's on the blog, and it's also, you've received it, and if you need another one, you can either click this link when you get these slides or give us a call. Then we have this other big thing happening January 1st. We've been talking about it for a little while, the Colorado required sick accrual. That's coming up. That does start January 1st for all employers that have 15 or more, or 16 or more, I guess technically at the time, employees. You're required to provide sick leave to your employees. So we have a accrual form. If you don't know what I'm talking about, give us a call. We can walk you through it. The accrual form just tells us how it should be set up. So again, we've got a link to that on our website, and then you can always give us a call for that. And if you're unsure, if you have maybe you have a current accrual plan and you're wondering if it fits the new law, let us know. We can certainly talk you through that as well. And then another big one is bonus payroll request forms. So this is the time of year when those bonuses start coming up. It's one of the things we do most of between November and December. So if you're planning to run a bonus payroll, let us know. You can run it on a current payroll that you already have, totally fine. Or if you want to do a separate payroll run, that's really when we need to know so we can set that payroll run up for you. And with your specifics, that form will go through, do you want it to be direct deposited? Do you want live checks? What date do you want it? There's a lot of good information in there. How do you want it taxed? So again, you can find that or give us a call or email us if you would like to set that up. I know we've actually already set some up for people. So people are already on the ball. You guys are doing great. So let's just move forward. Let's talk about electronic delivery of tax forms. So a few years ago, the IRS said you could provide electronic copies of your Form W-2s to employees or printed forms. So we have this ability within iSolved. Some of you elected this immediately. Some of you may have no idea what I'm talking about. But these paper forms, you can get the paper forms or you can get electric forms. Let me move forward a little bit, just give you a bit more information. So we here at Auto Paycheck start printing those paper form W-2s 1st of January. Basically, we're going to start printing them and then we get them to you. And then you as an employer are required to distribute those forms to your employees by January 31st. So that deadline that we're all pretty aware of. With electronic forms, you could elect to have those, and those employees could then elect from that. So basically how it works is you say, yes, as an employer, I'd like the opportunity to provide the electronic forms. And then your employees will get to either choose, do they want an electronic form or do they want a paper form? So they have that choice. Couple big things here that we just need to make sure are clear. The employee has to have employee self-service. So your employees, if those of you who know what that is, or ESS, sometimes we call it, the employee is logging in, viewing their pay stubs, maybe they're making changes to their accounts, things like that. They have to be already logging in. If you don't have your employees logging into employee self-service, there is no way to provide an electronic form. So if you want to add that and you're not using employee self-service, let us know. We can get it set up. It's really simple and it's really easy to use for your employees as well. And just know, just because you as an employer elect electronic forms does not mean every one of your employees will. They have the opportunity to choose that. And if you have terminated employees throughout the year, they would also have to have access to the employee self-service, and they would also have to opt in or opt out of the electronic forms. Otherwise, if they don't do anything, let's say a terminated employee never comes into their employee self-service, they never elect, they're going to get a paper form. So know that you could potentially have some employees with an electronic form, some employees with a paper form. And those paper forms and electronic forms, we will make sure they are to you by January 20th. And or if they're electronic, to the employee by January 20th in the system. That way it gives you enough time to get them distributed, especially if you have paper forms, to the other employees who have those paper forms by the 31st. If you have more questions about this, let us know. We can tackle that individually with you. All right. So we have some minimum wage changes coming up. This tends to something we always talk about, right? Federal minimum wage, $7.25. Colorado minimum wage goes up to $12.32 for non-tipped employees, $9.30 for tipped, and that is based on the $3.02 tip credit. If you don't have tips, you don't do that, don't worry about it. If you do and you're kind of unsure, let us know. Or if you think you should, kind of thing, let us know. One of the biggest things that I want to talk about with this and point out is we here at Auto Paychecks do not automatically go in and update minimum wage for your employees. The reason being they are your employees and their salary is up to you. So we can't make a salary change on an employee. We're just here running the software in the background. So make sure the timing is very important. Is you're going to decide when to run your 2019 payroll if you have people, 2020, the 2020 final payroll, if you have people on minimum wage, after you run that final payroll in 2020, so the final payroll dated with a 2020 check date, you can go into employee management and then head to employee pay and salary and add a new record. Don't edit, add a new record. You guys have been with me, you know how much I like adding new. Add a new record and add that new tipped rate in for those people that you need to have a minimum wage set at that rate, okay? And if you have other states, or if you're in multiple states or in other states, you can go to the Department of Labor website. We have that link on the screen for you. And you can actually look at other state-specific minimum wages. So keep in mind that if you're in other states as well, you may have to look and update those items too. Okay. Okay, so we have some changing wage bases. So Social Security wage base for 2021, this one typically always changes. So it is going up to 142,800 this year. That means the Social Security tax will happen on wages, and once it hits that wage, it's going to stop. FUTA, 7,000. Colorado, we anticipate that it is going to be 13,600. There was an anticipation of it actually going up, and that has somewhat changed. So it's probably not going to go up until 2022. And at that time, the projected Colorado SUI amount wage base will be 17,000. And again, the state-specific updates are available. You can click this link when you get the slides, and you can look at other states and see what those wage bases are. Now, while I said we don't update your minimum wage for your employees, because that is something you do, the things we do, though, if it's related to taxes, these are automatically updated for you. You don't have to worry about that. These are tax laws, so we've got you covered. Those are going to be automatically updated. So if you run a payroll in 2021 and going forward, they're going to make sure that those wage bases are met. All right, a couple more limitations or different items like this that we have going on this year. HSA, annual contributions for single and family, those are going to be $3,600 and $7,200 respectively. And just a quick note on HSAs, because this is a common question we get. To have a health savings account, what HSA stands for, you do have to be enrolled in a high deductible health plan. So if you're unsure, you can talk to your broker about that. So just keep that in mind. Those of you who have FSAs, the annual contribution will be $2,750. And the FSA dependent care will be $5,000. So these numbers, just to reiterate, are what someone could contribute to those accounts. 401k, 403b, 457b, those limits are at $19,500 for an employee, and the simple IRA, that deferred limit will be $13,500. Again, these are laws that are put into effect, these limitations, so we make sure that those are completely updated in the system. The system will make sure it's tracking that. And if you're unsure, if you maybe have some of these items, but you're not tracking them within payroll, let us know. We can get these items set up. It can actually really help you track that. Okay, now we're going to get into some dates for holidays, because we are at the end of the year. Holidays seem to happen all the time. And why it's important to you is because these could affect your processing schedule. So quite a few of you, if you're on, especially like the biweekly schedules or a weekly schedule of processing payroll, you're probably going to hit most of these holidays. One that I don't have on here is Veterans Day. That's next Wednesday. And the Wednesday was at the 11th. Am I getting my days right? That is a Wednesday. And wait, just like every other holiday, if it's a bank holiday, the banks are closed. Money does not move. So that means next week, and I've already gotten to speak to many of you. We get these questions all the time. You know, your schedule might have changed where you may have to process on Monday, because that Wednesday is in between the day you process and your check date. If you want to ensure direct deposit and you're on that regular processing schedule, you're going to have to process on Monday to make sure we have enough time to move the money and make sure that those direct deposits hit employees' accounts on the correct day. So if you aren't sure about any of this, if I haven't said enough, please just give us a call. We would love to talk to you, and we can run through your schedule with you and tell you exactly when you're going to need to process. So November hits us twice. We've got Veterans Day and Thanksgiving Day. So those are going to be processed. Those potentially are changing your schedule. Those might be a Monday process day instead of a Tuesday for you. So keep a good lookout on that. And then a couple things where the bank holidays, like these big ones, were closed, but we're also going to be closing the day before Thanksgiving at 12 p.m. So we got about a half day there. So for those of you who come in and pick up your payroll packets, please make sure that you are in and have those picked up that day before Thanksgiving before 12 p.m. And we'll call you if you can, or if you have any special circumstances, please let us know and we'll work with you. And then we go into December with Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So Christmas Eve is Thursday. So again, our offices are going to be closed at noon, picking up payroll packets. Make sure you get to us before noon. And Christmas Day is a bank holiday. So we are closed, no money moves, and you cannot date a paycheck on that day. So keep that in mind because that's a Friday. So Christmas Day is a Friday. So many of your schedules, your payroll processing and your check dates have been moved to December 24th if you have a paycheck that day. So check that out. It's really typical to move it the day before. If you could absolutely choose to move it forward into the next Monday. So if that's more unusual, so if that's something you do want to do, let us know before you process. And then we get into New Year's. So New Year's, same kind of thing. New Year's Eve, we close at noon. So again, pick up your payroll packets before noon on that day. Again, that's a Thursday. And New Year's Day, everything is closed. It's New Year's Day, banks are closed. You cannot date a check on that day. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get into a little further into the presentation. But when I say you can't date a check on a holiday, it means the reason you can't is people can't go to the bank and cash their check that day because the banks are closed. And especially at this year end, if you have most of your schedules, if you have a payroll check date, that would have been the 1st of January because it's the Friday and we've moved it to to December 31st. That means December 31st is your final day that you could date a check in 2020. If you don't want it to move back to Thursday and instead you want to move your check date into January, and I believe that Monday is January 4th would be the next day you could potentially date a check, those wages now become 2020 wages. Don't worry, I'm going to talk, or 2021. This year has just got my dates off. Those become 2021 wages. So we're going to talk more about that and I'll reiterate that here in a minute. So just keep that in mind when you're moving these check dates at the end of the year. 12/31 is the last date you can date a check for 2020. Okay. And then we also get into Martin Luther King Day, January 20th. Again, that's a Monday. The difference here, whereas the banks are closed, we will be open. So that one doesn't normally affect your check dates unless you are a Monday check date. There's a few of you out there. So if you're a Monday check date, we either have to decide if you're moving that back to Friday or if you're going to move it to Tuesday. So let us know. Okay, so I told you we were going to talk a little bit more about check dates and things like that. And basically what it is called constructive receipt. So constructive receipt, we have the IRS definition, how it's defined there. The basics of it, if I try to put it into layman's terms here, is you can only date a check, the money that you're giving to an employee, on a day they could also take possession of that. So like if they can actually get the money, you can definitely read, if you're really in for an IRS publication, you can read IRS publication 334, Tax Guide for Small Businesses, that will go into much more depth in this. But we're going to talk a little bit about, and I know this slide, we're going to have a lot of information on here, so I'm going to try to break it down. And remember, you get a look at this too. And if you really want to go into more depth, if this doesn't make sense, give us a call and let's talk through this so we really understand what a constructive receipt means. So I'm going to put a little bit of information on here. So what does constructive receipt mean to your business is that basically, like I was saying, on a holiday, you cannot date your check on a holiday or any date the banks are closed because the employee can't walk into that bank and cash that check. Okay. So you have to actually make the funds have to be available to the employee on that day. And if banks are closed, the money cannot be given to that employee. It cannot be directly deposited that day. Nothing like that because the banks can't move money on those days. So, so basically it means you must date your payroll on a day when they could. So that's why when we talk about we're moving, like Christmas Day, we can't make a check. So your check date is going to be Christmas Eve. New Year's Day, we can't date a check. So your check date is going to be New Year's Eve. And so keep that in mind. And you must report the income in the year the property is received or made available. Okay, so what does that mean? This is what I'm talking about at the year end. So somebody might have a pay period that is worked entirely in December, but your first paycheck, but your paycheck that actually encompasses, uses that pay period isn't until January 4th. Well, if you date the check January 4th, those become 2021 wages. It doesn't matter when the time was worked, it matters when the money is paid. So this with year end, we always get questions about that. Even if you have perhaps even a pay period that spans the end of December into January. So we've seen some of these where you have a week in December and a week in January. It doesn't matter when the time is worked. When is the pay date? Your pay date will be in January. That entire time worked and paid in January is 2021 wages. Okay. So I know some of you might choose to end your pay period differently at the end of the year. If you want to do that, totally fine. Just let us know. We have to know before you process if you need to make any changes to check dates. You can find your payroll schedule in iSolved, and of course, give us a call. We can direct you to your payroll schedule. We can send it to you, whatever you need, so you're really, really prepared and understand when your check dates are hitting with all these holidays and the year-end stuff happen now. Whew, constructive receipt, it's a lot. So I'm going to move on, but if you have questions about that, let us know, okay? Okay, now we're going to get into more dates because we want to try to keep you as prepared as possible. So here's some year-end prep dates. We're going to talk about each one of these a little bit in detail. So we've got things that are always common year-end: bonuses and adjustments, fringe benefits, third-party sick pay. We're going to go over these. So bonuses, of course, these happen in November and December. I talked about this a little bit at the beginning. If you need an extra payroll run, let us know. We'll set it up for you. We can do direct deposit. We can do live checks. I see a lot of people want to do a live check and put it into a Christmas card for the Christmas party, something like that, or maybe you mail it this year. Just let us know what those rules are, what you want to do, and we'll make sure we can get that set up for you. And if you want that to be 2020 wages, make sure we date the check date in 2020. Adjustments that might need to happen. If I'll let you know, if we see something, we've already contacted you. If there's an adjustment for year-to-date information or things like that, or if something comes up, we might need to do an adjustment for the year. We want to make sure those are done within the year. So kind of just keep this in mind. You have about 11/13 is our due date for these things. So just be thinking about these things if they are affecting you or not. Fringe benefit adjustments. The biggest one here that we see is the personal use of company vehicle. Some of you have that. And oftentimes we just report it once a year. We just need to report it. And any other fringe benefits that you might be paying to your employees, we can definitely get that added to your payroll. We can add it to a payroll that you currently have, or we can set up an additional payroll run for you. Again, we want to make sure all of those are dated 2020. Then we have third-party sick pay. So if you have this, you know what it is. If you're like, what is third-party sick pay? You probably aren't using it. It's when a third party is paying somebody like on disability insurance. Okay. So we may be reporting that for you. That third party may be reporting it for you. So if you're unsure, or if you get something in the mail that says you have third-party sick pay, get it over to us. Let us look at it with you, and we'll let you know if it's something that we're going to report or if the other company is reporting. There's some detail in there. I'm not going to go into the big detail just because it's kind of unique to each company. Then we have 2% shareholder health insurance. So this one is big. This one we see more and more people on. So what that means is if you are an S Corp, so if you don't know if you're an S Corp, talk to your accountant. It's only applying to people who are S Corp. So you might, if you're not an S Corp, don't worry about it. But what it is basically you're recording the percent or the amount of health insurance the company has paid on behalf of the shareholders who own 2% or more of the company. They have 2% or more of voting rights. They own 2% more of the company itself. Those things need to be reported. Typically, again, that's once a year. And it's taxed it's just taxed specifically for 2% shareholders, and that's why we have to report it. So we've seen quite a few of these this year. We can either track it throughout the year, less common, or we just do a one-time adjustment at the end of the year, dated in the year, so dated in 2020, to tax those shareholders appropriately. If you are still unsure, if maybe you think you have 2% shareholders, but you're unsure, give us a call, give us an email. We'll talk you through it. And if we need to make those adjustments, we will. Staying on this health insurance topic here, we've got the employer portion of health insurance, code DD. So sometimes this happens where code DD, people are going, why do I have to put this in? What is this? It's box 12, code DD, and it just means reporting. It's an optional field if you have less than 250 W-2s filed in the year. But if you have more than 250 W-2s filed, you are then required to report code DD. And that's going to be the cost of the health insurance that the company pays, the company pays per the employee. So we have already checked our records. So for those of you who maybe hit that 250 threshold last year in 2019, you had 250 W-2s or more. We've already contacted you, and hopefully we've seen it. We're going to work with you on getting that to make sure it is reported on the Form W-2s for your employees. Again, if you're unsure, let us know. But I mean, 250 W-2s is a lot. You have hired and terminated quite a few people, or you have a very large company. So most of you probably are not affected by it. And like I said, it is an optional field you can choose. I have some clients who have chosen to do that, even though they don't make that requirement. That's fine. It's just really when you hit that 250 level that it becomes required. So if you haven't heard from us, probably doesn't affect you, but take a moment and just kind of think about the W-2s you processed last year and see if it's something that might affect you, and give us a call if you're unsure. And then we have Form 1099 reporting. So this, if you want us to report your 1099s and file your 1096, we can do that for you. We can process those 1099s throughout the year, the actual payments, or we can just report it and get the actual reporting done and get the actual forms for you. So one thing to note on here is if your accountant is already doing this, we should not do it too. We cannot file two 1096s. So if your accountant's already filing Form 1099, sending out those forms to your employees, great. But if you want us to do it, start gathering that information of everything you've paid to those people who would be considered a 1099, and let us know, of course, before your final payroll. It has to be run in 2020 in order to get that reporting correctly. So if you are going 1099s, what are those? You probably don't have them, but if you're unsure, give us a call. And then the final one here on this year-end prep date is the notifications of rates or frequency changes. So the IRS and the states are sending out these rate updates. You'll see them like an unemployment rate update or a frequency changing. How often do you have to pay your payroll taxes? Those are going out in the mail. You may have already received some. You may be getting them very, very soon. Just make sure you get them to us as soon as it comes in the mail. scan it and email it to info@autopaychecks.com, and we will take care of that. And remember that one of your obligations as of our client is we're going to take on the liability of paying your taxes, filing your payroll taxes, those kind of things. But your responsibility is getting us these notifications because they come to you because you're the employer, you're the client, you're the company. Your responsibility is getting to those to us as soon as possible. Don't sit on it for a month or 2 months. Okay, so make sure just the second you get it in, and if you're going and looking at it and going, I don't know what this is, but it looks payroll tax related, send it in anyway. We would much rather see something that isn't something we need to do than not get what we really need. So just when in doubt, send it to us, come by, drop it off at the front, let us know, and we'll make sure that we get it taken care of for you. Okay, I got more dates, but we're going to make it through. It's going to be fine. Important year-end dates. So this is going into December. Do you remember that year-end checklist I mentioned at the beginning? This comes in your year-end newsletter. This checklist is awesome. It just basically goes through what we're going through today, and it asks you the question so you can know, do I have 2% shareholders? Do I have fringe benefits? Do I have these items? You can mark off yes and no, get you really ready. So we ask that you send those checklists in back to us by December 4th. Because that's going to give us enough time to review them and, of course, get with you if we need to make any adjustments based on that information that you give us. And then we move into on 12/18, we have our ACA basic clients. We need all your overrides completed, submitted, and approved. And if you don't know what I am talking about, chances are you're not subject to the ACA, but that's the Affordable Care Act. That's the 1095s. Forms that go out to prove offer of health coverage. So those of you who know what I'm talking about, you're probably already on it. So those just need to be done by then. You'll be able to review them, make any changes, and approve them. And if you just want a reminder, or maybe this is your first year handling this with us, we have an ACA Basic webinar recording. We'll send you, it goes over everything in a really clear, concise way. And then, of course, give us a call. We can walk you through it too. And if you aren't sure, like I said, you probably aren't subject to it, so don't worry too much about it, but you can definitely give us a call just in case. And then on 12/18 is also that date, that kind of like that ending date of when we need to know if we're processing 1099s for you. And then our final date, I've said this before, it's worth saying again, your final date for adjustment payroll, taxable fringe benefits, S-Corp recordings, anything that you need is December 31st, because that is the final day of 2020. We can date anything. All right, whew, we're getting there. Got another slide of year-end deadlines. Now this is going into January. Why are these important? Because January, we start printing Form W-2s, printing Form 1095s, printing Form 1099s. We need to jump on this as soon as we can so we can get them out to you. We're 10 to 12,000 of these are going to be actually printed and done. So we've got very capable of doing it. We got to get it done. So January 6th, and this is in your new year-end newsletter, January 6th is going to be the final date that you can update an employee address or update an employee social, so that those are then captured on their Form W-2s, Form 1099s, Form 1095s. So we have to basically put in that date, and if you make a change after the 6th, it is not going to be captured on our first round of printing. This is kind of like a blackout date. After that, we're going to have to wait until February to make any corrections or changes and do any like Form W-2Cs, make any changes to quarterlies, anything like that. It's a very, very, very busy month. So we do have to put that date in. So you have until from now, until January 6th to make sure your employee addresses are correct. That goes for your terminated employees. Double check socials with the information that you've kept in your human resources files. Make sure those are right and get them updated. This is something you could absolutely send out to employees if you want to give through employee self-service. tell your employees to make sure their employee addresses are updated or correct, we can add that in there if you're not already using it. All right, January 7th, like I said, we're printing those 1095s, the 1099s. We're going to start printing. You will hear, if you're in our office, there's a lot of printing going on, a lot of activity. We'll package those up for delivery to you. So just a reminder, we get them to you as the company, you get them to your employee. We do not individually mail out any of these forms. All right, January 20th, electronic delivery of those forms, whether it be a W-2 or a 1099, a 1095, will be available in the employee self-service portal if you've elected as a company for electronic delivery, and if the employee has elected to have electronic delivery of these tax forms. So again, that goes back to the very beginning. We talked about that. If you need more information about that, let us know. Otherwise, you'll either get printed form or an electric form by that date, no later. Okay. And then as well as the 1095s, all that stuff. On the 27th, we will submit forms W-2 and the ACA forms to all government agencies. And then February 3rd is when we start looking at the potential if there are any amended W-2s that might need to happen or amended quarterly reports. That's kind of our deadline there. All right. Now we have a couple IRS deadlines. These are just the IRS, the Social Security Administration. What are their deadlines? Just a reminder, this might be old news to you if you've been in business a while. You might be brand new, and this is great to learn. Form W-2s are due to your employees or postmarked by January 31st. We file them with the Social Security Administration as well by then. ACA forms, so the Affordable Care Act 1095B and C forms, again, due to employees by January 31st. And the form 940, 941, 943, these are your quarterlies, are all due by January 31st. So easy to remember, all the same date. In the years past, there's been some leeway on some of the ACA items. That is no longer the case. It is now they must be in and given to employees by the 31st. Whew, I think we're done with dates. Isn't that exciting? So as we're getting close to wrapping up here, we're going to talk about a change in Colorado that's happened. It's on the writs of garnishment. So real quick, again, there's going to be a lot of information here. You're going to get links. You're going to be able to look this up as well. Basically, the garnishments in Colorado, a law was passed on October 1st of 2020 that before it was you must withhold 25% of an employee's disposable earnings and to pay to the creditor. Now the law will reduce that to 20%. So that's a change there. And the question that I think we get a lot is, if you have a current garnishment that says, and your withholding order says 25, and you received it before October 1st, 2020, do not go in and change it to 20 until you get a new income withholding order, a new garnishment order, something like that. Basically, anything that's happened as of October 1st, 2020, those ones should be following the new law and be, if you've received something that then said then, the law has reduced that to 20% instead of 25. Please look at the withholding order. Don't go in and just change it unless you have received an amended order. Another change, this is one of the other big changes, is employers would need to provide employees with copies of the completed writ with their paycheck that contains the first deduction for that garnishment. The difference that's been changed is now, instead of making it the first paycheck, you have to return it or give it to the employee within 7 days of receiving that writ in the mail. And you need an estimate. And this is where you're going to estimate how much would be coming out of the employee's check. So if you need help with how do you figure out what an estimate is, if you have to do it before you actually run your payroll, give us a call. We'll walk you through how to do that. There is good information on those writs too that tell you exactly how to do it. But if you need some assistance with that, you got to do it within 7 days now and not with their first paycheck. And then currently, or before 10-1, it was employers were required to respond to a writ within a specific time frame. Now, employers will also be expected to notify the creditor if the person named on the writ is no longer an employee, say they got terminated or they left employment, or if the writ you received doesn't contain all the necessary information to process it. So those are the three big changes as it goes to the writ of garnishment. And I'm going to hand this back over to Manon now, and so she can elaborate on any more of that I may have missed, and also talk about a couple other things. So Manon, go ahead and take control.
All right, thank you, Marika. Thank you so much for going through all of those line items. It was a lot to cover, I know, but you did fabulously. I do want to just quickly bring up the fact that come year end, pay attention to when your last 2020 check date is, and note that no additional 2020 wages can be created and paid to your employees after that final payroll process for that check date. And what I mean by this is if you run your final payroll and it happens to be on maybe December 21st for December 24th, and then maybe on the 22nd, something happens and you have to let one of your employees go. Well, then you have to provide a termination check within 24 hours to that employee. So you would have to do another check that affects 2020 wages by December 23rd. Well, since you've already processed your final payroll of the year, the system will not let you create another payment to an employee within this year without also creating another bonus payroll run. So I just want you to keep in mind that after you've processed your final payroll for 2020, if you need to make any corrections, additional payments, or create any additional checks for 2020 wages, that will also require you to have an additional payroll run. As you encounter that, which we always have a lot of clients who do, but as you encounter that, give us a call. We can help you get that set up. So just wanted to say that. I think I have control of the screen. Yep. Okay. So I just want to briefly remind us of the FFCRA, that Families First Coronavirus Relief Act that we've been dealing with since April of this year. Really, at this point, all I want to draw your attention to is that if you did pay qualified sick leave wages, so that qualified COVID-related wages, that will be reported in each employee's W-2 box 14. So if you have paid these wages, these COVID sick wages, and you didn't use the COVID earning codes specific for those wages, you need to contact us and let us know so that we can make an adjustment so that the employee's W-2 is correct the first time and they don't have to be corrected in February of next year. So this is just a reminder. Take a look at how you've been paying employees. If you did pay COVID leave, but you did not use the specified leave code, get in touch with us, let us know so that we can make sure that those are paid and recorded correctly. If you have any questions on that, do not hesitate to jump into the chat box or to give us a call, send us an email after this webinar. I also just want to give a little bit more detail about that HFWA required sick accrual leave that's coming up. So this is that required PTO that, thanks to Governor Polis, we will have to see each employer offer this benefit in the coming years. It rolls out in 2 phases. So if you have 16 or more employees, this is an accrual that begins on January 1st of 2021. If you have 15 or fewer employees, or really at that point, you're not exempted anymore, and all Colorado employers who have at least one employee in the state of Colorado, whether it's seasonal, any type of employee in the state of Colorado, you will have to offer this paid leave. And what the leave is 48 hours that your employees can accrue, 48 hours that your employees can use, and 48 hours that can carry over from year to year, if whatever, it's up to 48 hours. So if they've used 10 hours of it, whatever they have left will carry over into the next year and be available. So I just want you to pay attention to how your current sick plans are implemented within your company. Take a look at your policies. If they need to be adjusted, please let us know. We do have the capability in system, and it's just part of your regular core payroll support. So it's no additional fee to have this accrual set up, but it's 1 hour accrued for every 30 hours worked. It's really nice that you don't have to have a different accrual rate for full-time and part-time because it is based on hours worked. Now, if you decide that you don't want to track the accrual, you don't want to keep track of 1 hour for every 30 hours worked, you can be more generous and grant all 48 hours up front. So it's 6 days of work, 48 hours for full-time, and then you'll have to do a little calculation if you have a part-time employee. So you would take a look at what their regular hours worked in a day is, and you would project that out for 6 days of work and be able to give that balance to the part-time employees. Now, if you want us to be able to track this in iSolve to update your current policy or to create a new accrual policy, again, there's that form that we've sent out a couple of times and is a part of this slide deck as well. There's a link to that form. Please fill that out and send it back to us so we can make sure that we are all ready to go come January 1 of 2021 or 2022, depending on your employee count. I also just want to give you a little teaser. We are going to be doing a rebrand. We're really excited about what our new logo is going to look like, and come Monday, I think it's not this Monday, but the next Monday, the 16th, you can log onto our website, autopaychecks.com, and you'll see a completely new looking website. We're really excited about that. And then we also have been busy at work with our software developer, and we have a new user interface that's going to be an option for you to use and for your employees to use in the new year. So there will be a lot more to come on that, but we're really excited to kind of start announcing that change. At this point, if you have any questions, type them into the chat bar and we will be able to address them now. Or if you have very specific questions to your company, you can reach out to us after this. You know, like always, we're here for you. We want to make sure that your questions are heard and addressed. So at this point in time, I'll give us a minute or so to monitor that chat function to see if we have any questions coming in. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap up our webinar for today and send out the recording and the slide deck shortly afterwards. Marika, did I miss anything, do you think?
No, I think we got it all.
Okay, well, I am excited for the new year, so hopefully all of us are ready. Doesn't look like we have any questions coming in, so I think we're going to go ahead and close up for today. But again, thank you so much for everybody who came. We hope that this was very clear and answered some of your questions for you, and now that you feel very prepared for your year-end payroll.
Thank you.